Be recording now. All right. For the audience that doesn't know you, feel free to introduce yourself.
My name is Blake Boston, also known as the meme Scumbag Steve.
So, everybody knows Scumbag Steve, but who is Blake? So, what's the actual story for the people that aren't aware? Because I've heard the story.
So the story was, like, long story short, is I was waiting for my sister. We were trying to go out. She always takes forever. So I guess I was wearing a nice fit, the tan hat, the tan shirt with the fur jacket. I actually had Timberland boots on and Gerbeau pants. They were like black with tan straps. I don't even know where those pants are anymore. So I ran down the hallway screaming at my sister like always because she was making us late and I was trying to get some girls and stuff. I was 16 at the time. So my mom, who is this, I don't know, freelance photographer, she was just taking photography classes. So all the time when I was a teenager, just picture this, picture that. So then I was screaming and I don't know, she heard me coming. So I don't know how she got the picture. She just happened to snap the perfect photo when I was walking. It was literally mid-sentence because you can see my mouth start to open, screaming like, "Will you please hurry up?" So, I mean, essentially it was like the perfect picture because you can never recreate that picture, just the way that my mouth was. It was literally perfect.
So
then, I don't know. I want to say the first time I saw it was around 2012 when it got turned into a meme. The hell's that? Oh, there we go. Sorry, my screen froze a little bit. So anyway, 2012, I was scrolling through my Facebook messages and I had hundreds of messages like, "Oh, you're a scumbag. You stole my girlfriend. Give me my lighter back." My girlfriend, who was pregnant at the time, or actually, I guess it was 2011 because she didn't. Yeah, so it was 2011. She was pregnant at the time and she's like, "Oh, you're cheating on me. You're doing this. Why are you going out getting drunk every night?" I'm like, literally, you can see me come home from work. I'm not drunk. So we got in a big fight, and then finally I realized what was going on because I didn't even know what a meme was. I thought it was called a meme at the time. I was very, very oblivious to the whole internet culture. So then, I did my research, found out what Scumbag Steve was. I got really mad at first because I was like, "Why would you call me that?" I pride myself on being like a good character type of person. So it really bothered me. And I was talking to my buddy there. He's like, "Oh, you do comedy, you can do music, anything's possible with this meme." So I decided to try to play into it and, I don't know, make something out of it. So I started making music videos and doing some appearances here and there. And it's been real fun.
So the original photo, when was that taken?
2006, if I'm correct.
So that's when I was born. That's when I was born. I know I just aged you like so much, but yeah, that's when I was born. And now you're having a kid. Now you're having a kid.
Oh, my third kid, actually.
Yeah. Yeah, no, because you text me about that, and I'm like, "Oh, scumbag dad now."
Yeah.
Scumbag Steve, the dad. So
very exciting.
Yeah, no, I'm happy for you. Congratulations. So, like, how has this affected your life? How has being Scumbag Steve affected your life? Like, because you don't, I mean, you grew up, right? Because you're not my age anymore. It's not like you are the one-to-one Scumbag Steve anymore. Now you are, how long is this? Like 16? No, more than 16 years later. Like 18 years later almost, right? Because in 6 months I'm going to be 18. So 18 years later, like how is the timeline affected your life basically, like from start to finish?
So in the beginning, when the advice animals were really going strong, I'd go out to the club or something with my friends and I'd try to, mac on a girl or something. I'd be like, "Ew, no, you'll cheat on me in 2 days." Stuff like that, which kind of got to me because it was kind of cock blocking me, excuse my language, for a little bit, So, I mean, that was kind of weird to go through because I know I'm not like that. I've never cheated on anybody ever in my life. So I'm the exact opposite, I guess, in real life as the meme. I mean, I do have my scumbag moments, but I like to pride myself on being a good guy. Like, I want people to be able to call me and be like, "Hey, Blake, I got this problem. Can you help me with it?" Instead of, "Hey, Blake, I'm not inviting you to my party because you're going to steal all my lighters." Stuff like that. So, I mean, that was kind of weird, I guess, to get used to. But now that it's, I mean, I am Scumbag Steve. Like, I identify, you know what I mean? I could snap into the character like in any second. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if I meet people on the street and they're like, "Oh, Steve, can we get a picture?" Like, I might, fake steal their. I don't smoke cigarettes anymore, but my big shtick was I'd light my cigarette with their lighter, and then I'd fake run away with it, kind of like give them an experience. So that's been pretty cool. And there's other stuff that's been crazy to me. I mean, now 15, I think it was. I went out to South by Southwest, and a high school teacher actually came up to me and asked me to do a recorded message for her class. And she was like, listen, this is going to mean so much to me. My students always talk about you. Would you mind? Because I guess they had one of the lowest graduation rates in the state, which was crazy. So, I mean, just for me to be able to do a message like that, even if I got through to one kid, I feel like I did something and it makes me feel good about myself. That type of stuff is great.
Well, when it comes to having that, it's a very strange and unique form of fame because people are not like, it's not like Justin Bieber where you walk down the street and people are like, oh, it's Justin Bieber. It's, you are famous as a character almost.
Mm-hmm.
So when people, what's the craziest fan experience you've had? That's a good question. What's the craziest fan experience you've ever had that made you think about it or still sticks through to this day?
I'd say the craziest fan experience I've had was when I did not South by Southwest. I'm sorry, I did RaffleCon at MIT in Cambridge, Mass, and I actually had Chuck Testa and the Rainbow Guy. There were a bunch of people while I was rapping to a whole bar full of people. I had them all dancing behind me. That was pretty cool. And then just to see all the fans and everybody who was there, because we became a pretty tight knit group through the whole weekend. Just everybody who was there, but just to see that end like that, it was probably one of the best experiences of my life.
At what point did the recognition start to die off a little bit? Because there's like obviously the peak where you look exactly like Scumbag Steve, and then there's now you all these years later. Like what was the drop off point, do you think?
I'd say it was when I stopped, because there was a period of time where I was not doing anything as Scumbag Steve. I wasn't even barely doing interviews. It was very minimal if I did. So, I mean, I guess it kind of tapered off from that because, if kid's not there, then, it's not going to grow. Something's there, it's not going to grow. You know what I mean? So, I mean, but now I think we're doing a nice resurgence. We have this Scumbag Steve coin that somebody else made that we decided to buy a bunch of shares, me and this team, the CTO team. We're working very closely to try to rejuvenate the Scumbag Steve coin. If you go to scumbagsteve.lol, it gives a whole backstory on how we found out about it and stuff. So that's pretty cool. So crypto, then the NFTs, that's pretty cool to get into. I honestly had no idea about that stuff until I really did my research.
Do you ever see yourself, because I know you mentioned doing comedy, and I feel like it'll be a really funny thing to have Scumbag Steve do stand-up comedy, like in like one of those clips. Have you ever considered doing something like that?
Absolutely. It didn't really work out. There was a time back in like 2013-ish where I was going to go, I had something lined up where I was going to do a college tour and just kind of like speak in front of students, whether it be like in a classroom setting or just a more intimate setting. So it unfortunately fell through, but yes, I've always had that in the back of my mind because I do like making people laugh. So
after being, extremely famous, not by your own will, but going viral, being famous, and having all this recognition at such a young age too, like 22, I think would have been the high point. So what did you learn from it all? Like all these years later?
I've just kind of learned to take it slow, like no matter what happens. Because there was times, I'd go to an event and I'd get super drunk on purpose just to make a fool of myself because that's what the meme was. You know what I mean? And that's kind of a dangerous road. Especially, if you're in a whole different state, like you don't have your family there, friends, you barely know anybody personally. So that's kind of dangerous. But just as the time went on, just roll with the punches. If you go to an event, you don't have to get drunk. You don't have to pretend like you're actually a scumbag. You can play into the meme a little bit, but just be yourself. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being yourself.
So, if you don't mind me asking about like your wife, right? So, how did she when you first met her? Did she recognize you as Scumbag Steve?
So we worked at the same job, and everybody would always mess around with me and call me scumbag. Like, I'd cook something overdone or something, like a steak well done, and I'd start yelling at the cook, like, "Oh, who the hell wants well done steak anyway?" And they'd be like, "Shut up, scumbag." And so I guess she would be like, "Oh, why does everybody call him a scumbag?" And so then they told her. It was pretty funny. I mean, I don't openly tell everybody. I don't walk around with like, "Hey, guess what? I'm scumbag Steve." Like, I don't try to flaunt it. But if somebody asks, I won't back away from it. She thought it was hilarious, though.
Do you think that's the reason that you guys ended up? Would you say that the Scumbag Steve meme is why you're married?
No. So we got together because she was in a previous relationship that just ended, and she thought that I was married at the time. So we were doing an event for a wedding. It was like it wasn't the reception, but it was the after party. Everybody came in and ate. And I remember this distinctively. The bride and the groom were on separate sides of the room, barely paying attention to each other. And I said openly, I was like, shit, if that was my wife, I'd be kissing her neck all over and stuff. So she found out I was single. And I didn't know she was single. So then we just started talking.
So
it had nothing to do with the meme.
well, when people did say, oh, you're such a scumbag, so on and so forth, was there ever a point where somebody showed her a photo or something? She's like, "Oh, he's that guy." Like, was that ever the moment, or no?
No, I mean, she's not really the type of person to get all starstruck anyway. Like, if we walk, because we've seen bands together, we've gone to shows, and we walked down the street and seen somebody famous, Boston, whatever. You see people famous all the time. So she's not really that type of person. So I mean, she just she thinks it's funny. Like if we've watched the Scumbag Steve Overture music video and me falling down drunk in bushes and stuff, she thought, oh, that's funny. That's a cool concept. But I mean, she doesn't. I don't want to say she doesn't care about it, but she's not crazy internet culture, I guess you could say.
So, what do you think your biggest regret was, like, in all of this? Like, do you have any regrets or any major ones at the very least?
I think my biggest regret was trusting the wrong people. I had a whole management team and stuff, and we were doing pretty good. I mean, we had some endorsement deals, we had some merchandise deals, but not much. I just kind of wish that I, bided my time a little bit more and made the right decision instead of the first decision, I guess you could say. Besides that, I don't really have many regrets. I mean, I've gotten to go to many different states. I barely traveled as a kid. I mean, I've only been out of the country once. So I mean, that was pretty cool. I got to go to Chicago, Texas, Orlando. There's a bunch of different places. I mean, so just traveling, I love to see the world. So I mean, that's a pretty cool experience. So I'd say, I don't know. I mean, yeah, look, the management team, yes, but besides that, there's not really many regrets. I mean, people f up all the time. People make mistakes, So if I go get too drunk one time back in 2012 at an event, and I was like fall down drunk, and I peed behind the bar like an idiot and almost got arrested, maybe that's not like the best thing in the world to happen, but it's a learning experience,
So has there ever been somebody so has there ever been somebody that was famous that recognized you? Like somebody that maybe you were a fan of or that you thought was famous in your mind, and they came up to you and they were like, "Oh, you're Scumbag Steve."
Yes and no. I mean, back at an event, Andrew WK, he's an older internet guy too. He recognized me and we kind of partied for a little bit. But besides that, not really. I performed at one show in Texas where, I mean, I don't even think Shaq was there for me, but Shaq was up in the rafters doing like a VIP thing. So technically I got to rap for Shaq, even though I don't know if he remembers it or not. But I mean, yeah, little things like that, but not too many celebrities. I consider myself more like a Z-list celebrity too. I'm like on the bottom of the pecking order.
So do you what's the craziest offer you've ever gotten as Scumbag Steve? Like the craziest thing that you've ever been offered to do, or the craziest amount of money, or the craziest things that you've been asked to do?
I've been offered a hefty sum of change for this hat. Still nothing. I mean, I might wait for like a meme museum or something. I mean, I can't just go sell it off to some. Maybe it's like a big investment thing, or like I make a like $1 billion, $1 million or something, and it has to do with like an event that I'm doing. I might raffle it off, something special, but it have to be really special. You know, I just don't give it away. Like that's why I want to put it in like a museum, because I know that's where we're headed one day. I don't know where it's gonna be, but I know we're gonna have some sort of museum eventually.
Do you think? So this is a funny idea, but you know how Batman? I don't know if you've ever seen this meme, but it's like Batman's clothes, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna put this in my closet, so I mess with myself when I'm like 70 years old and I have dementia. So that you should have that for yourself, where you put your hat like at one point, kind of like Batman's helmet, and then like the Scumbag Steve is like the rest of it, and you can auction that whole thing off, and then you could be like, all right, the whole set is like how much would you be willing to sell it for? That's a better question. How much would you be willing if Bill Gates was like, money's no object, I'm gonna buy the hat or the whole wardrobe? How much money would you willingly give it away for?
I mean, that's a tough one, because I mean, even before the Scumbag Steve days, this was like one of my favorite hats to wear. I mean, I would wear this once a week at least, if not more. I don't know, honestly. It would have to be the scenario too. I mean, if Bill Gates has no idea about internet culture and he wants to buy it because he's rich and he offers me like $50 million, I might say no. I'm not a material guy. You know, if the meme museum was like, oh yeah, Scumbag Steve, we're opening up a meme museum, here's like 20K or something. If it was the right cause, I might say yes. So it's all, I guess, situational, I guess. I mean, I've been offered not $1 million, but I've been offered quite a few dollars for it. And I've said no, right away said no, didn't even entertain it. So I guess, yeah, it just all depends on what's going on, you know?
So I mean, you don't have to name people, but like who are these people that are offering like that have 50K to offer for a hat, basically? Like, I don't ever see myself having, not necessarily having that type of money, but more like using that type of money to do something like that. Unless if I'm, filthy rich, like I'm not going to do that. So, for you, I guess my question is like, who were these people? What do these offers look like? Was it a DM? Was it an email? Was it formal? Was it informal? Like, how did that work? How were those exchanges done exactly?
Most of them were on X, and it was just mostly crypto investors that made a shitload of money off of Bitcoin and stuff. Just endless amounts of money in that way. Then there was another guy when I first started doing the NFT. It was right before we released it up for auction. A guy wanted to buy my hat. I think he was an investor too. So mostly just crypto guys for now. We'll see what happens though.
What Now, you don't have to answer this, and you can say if you don't want to answer, you don't have to. But my question would be, what do these numbers look like? Like 20K, 50K, 100K? Like, if you're okay with putting that number on, but like I'm curious of like how much money people are actually willing to pay for a hat.
And one was around 20, one was 50. One guy offered 100, but I think he was drunk because it was like midnight. Yeah, it was all over the place. Nothing like crazy. It wasn't like $1 million, $2 million, but it was, the most was about 100 G's.
But what is motivating you not to sell it for 100K? Like what, or 20K or 50K? Because that's a good amount of money. It's not like stupid, but it's enough. It's more than what a normal person would be able to sell their hat for. So what is the motivation of not selling your hat?
I'm terrible at the game, but I've always been a big fan of the game chess, where you always think, 5, 6, 10 moves ahead. And I don't know. I just thought, you go over, you look at Facebook, X, any of these social media websites, anything that has any type of media, memes are incorporated into every single part of that culture. So, I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just, I don't know. That's a good question. It's a really hard question to really answer because there's so many different possibilities. I mean, memes could die tomorrow. Memes could get bigger tomorrow. You never know. It's just like the stock market. You have big crashes, big dips, you have big highs. I mean, it's just, you never really know. And then the other thing, like, what if I sold a hat to some drunk idiot who snorts cocaine all day and he rips it in half in the first week? You know what I mean? That wouldn't be good, because then, I don't know, I'd feel personally bad, because I've had this hat for probably like 30, not 30, maybe like 20 years, 25 years. It's been a while since I've had it. So, I mean, just, materialistic, I don't know, it's got sentimental value, I guess, to me.
So you're a man of principle. You're not a
Yeah.
man of yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I won't sell my soul for $1, trust me.
All right. Which is like, it's funny because that's like the intrinsic opposite of what Scumbag Steve would do.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at the beginning. Like, I pride myself on being the exact opposite of that character. My kids, every day I tell them I love them. When school's happening, every day I ask them how school was. I cook them dinner every night. I'd like to be the complete opposite. Obviously, you have your slip ups, and I can't be, good guy 100% of the time. But when I can help it, I try to be.
So, I'm probably going to make this a little bit of a shorter interview. And I wanted to end off with like asking, I'll ask like one more question, which is, what advice do you have for young people?
Young people in general?
Yeah, young people in general.
Oh, man, just life's a marathon, not a sprint. Stop and smell the roses every once in a while. Don't let other people tell you how you should feel. Even though if it feels like the world's going to end, there's always a light at the end of the tunnel, no matter what. Trust me, I've been in what I consider sometimes hell, just dealing with certain things in my life. And I thought my life was over many times, but somehow I always find a way to drag myself out of there. And I mean, it's hard to do, but as long as you just don't give up and keep a good outlook on life, everything will get better.
I think my last question then in that case would be regarding your own kids. Like, what mindset do you want to instill in your own kids? Like, if there was one value or one principle that you're going to instill in your kids, what is it?
The one thing I always tell them, especially, kids are going to be looking for anything, oh, there's an extra piece of pizza on the table. There's 25 cents, $1 hanging on the ground. What I always tell them, and I always make sure I emphasize this, is it doesn't matter if you don't think anybody's looking. There's always somebody watching, whether it be the big man upstairs, whether I have a eagle vision. I'm like a hawk. You know what I mean? I know my kids are going to misbehave before they even do it. So, I mean, I always try to tell them, act like people are watching you. You know what I mean? Try to do good things for people, even if nobody's there. You know what I mean? There was a time I can remember when I was eating at this 50s style diner with my family. And there was this mentally challenged kid there. And he wanted a lollipop that one of the servers gave me. And so instead of me eating it because I wanted to eat it, I literally just gave it to him and I walked out. Didn't want people to say thank you. I just handed it to him and walked right out. I didn't want any recognition for that. It just made me feel good as a person. So, I mean, I tell my kids that, when you do good things for people, it makes you feel good. And it's easier for you to be a good person in turn.
I think that's a great place to end off. Right. I'm going to stop the recording and we'll talk a little bit after the show. All right. So, any final words?
Any final words? What's up, everybody? You bunch of scumbags. It's me, Scumbag Steve.
All right. In 3, 2, 1.